Part 5, Chapter 9 and 10. Chapter 9, The Only Thought.
"We'll keep going,"
Kilan replied. For the time being, she followed him. Leaves crunched beneath her shoes, crumbling easily, no strength left, far too old. The wind brushed along her fingers, and she clenched her hand as if trying to catch the air.
"Kilan is placing his hope in you, and you're betraying him."
She had opened the topic. There was no turning back. Did she even have the right to interfere? "The life you've planned doesn't match Kilan's idea of one. Are you aware of that?" Whom were her words really meant for? Were they intended for her own ears? The orange sky announced dusk. Although it hadn't felt like it, a lot of time had passed. It was only natural that she felt exhausted, hungry, and thirsty. A pulling ache spread through her legs and arms. Ignoring it was impossible. Kilan would be disappointed if... Kian stopped. "That's enough! Stop!" "But... you don't know anything about us!" he shouted. Abruptly, he turned around. His eyebrows drew together, a deep crease forming between them. "You didn't see Kilan back then. You didn't see how neglected he was. You don't have that sight burned into your eyes day after day." Jiyan glanced over her shoulder to see if anyone was nearby. Kian was getting too loud. She raised her hands in a calming gesture. She didn't want to force an escalation. "I'm truly sorry. Yes, I haven't known you long enough, and I'm interfering in your lives. Jiyan!" He stepped closer and grabbed her by the arms. His grip was strong and painful. Instinctively, her shoulders rose and she hunched. The fine red veins in his eyes were more visible than ever. "I want to protect him. Do you understand? I don't know what he went through during the half year he was alone, but he was lost. If I hadn't found him..." "Yes," she nodded cautiously, touching his wrists. For a moment, the situation eased and her voice became clearer. Her brother would never have treated her like this. In that instant, she finally understood that Kian and her brother were two different people. "But he's found new courage. He wants to find the CRs, and you're putting obstacles in his way. You, who should be on his side." His nails dug into her flesh. "You don't understand. And you explained so much, don't you?" she shot back. Now she couldn't hold back her voice. Let them be heard. How did they look to outsiders? Like siblings arguing over something trivial? For a moment, they stared deeply into each other's eyes. The eye contact ignited. She sensed that he hadn't meant any harm. He valued Kilan too much for that. According to his way of thinking, his view of the world, he was trying to create a carefree life for Kilan and for himself. What was right or wrong, anyway? Did she have the right to judge him? He took a long breath. "I don't want to be a second choice. I want someone to think of me. I want to be the only thought." She remained silent. Let him open up further. More and more. She needed more information about him. "I grew up in a home," he shared immediately. No hesitation, no shame. "Don't get me wrong, the caretakers treated us well. It was a pleasant in-between place, but I knew their affection and care were part of their job. After their shifts ended,
They didn't spare a single thought for us. They went back to their families and were loved. That shouldn't have mattered to me. I wanted to know so much. My origins, my family, and the reason I'd been given up. More than anything, I wished for an older brother who would protect me from every danger. No one could hurt me because my brother would be there immediately. The desire grew stronger and stronger. An image formed in my head, the idea becoming clearer and clearer. My brother, always smiling, overcoming every difficulty with ease. A bit clumsy, but lovable. My brother, whom I saw as a hero. One by one, every child was adopted and given a family. Only I was left behind. Nobody wanted me. That, too, shouldn't have mattered. I shouldn't have let any of it get to me. I got to know you. No, I mean Jiyan. On the one hand, yes, she made my life difficult. But on the other hand, I knew she was thinking only of me. In part, it felt good. I felt seen, but at the same time, I was terrified. I developed ambivalent feelings. At 16, I awoke in the house we currently live in. Disoriented, I went outside, searching for answers. That's where I met Kilan. He needs me. Do you understand? Finally, there was someone who needed me, and I had a goal in sight, to protect that boy. She clenched her teeth. I don't want him to fall into the hands of the Slivons and lose his personality. I like who he is now. What do you mean by that? She asked immediately. A shiver ran down her spine, and she shuddered briefly. Do they erase our memories? Kian released her arms, slipped free of her grasp, and stepped back a few paces. He clasped his hands behind his head and looked up at the sky, letting out a sigh. When a new Slivon takes over a body, the human is no longer the same. Unconsciously, Slivons steal memories. The self, the human changes. You could say the human dies. They steal our self. If a person suffered memory loss, were they someone else? If a human lost control of their psyche, did they no longer count as the same person? What about mental disabilities? The body remained the same, but the personality was replaced by another. Could one say they were dead and someone else continued living their life? What made the self a self? That was the fundamental question. Body or psyche? Was the body merely a shell, filled differently each time? Or was the body the decisive factor that shaped the psyche according to its own design? Or was there perhaps a third aspect everyone was overlooking? So, if Kilan were ever taken over by a Slivon, would he be irreversibly dead? Would he never come back? She pressed on. Did she really want to know the answer? Her trembling intensified. The ground seemed to vanish beneath her feet. For a while, her gaze went rigid, staring into nothingness. Even if his body kept living and the Slivon was killed again? Kian shook his head, stripping away any hope she had left. He pushed up his sleeve, exposing his arm. He touched his birthmarks as if counting them. Each of these stands for a different personality. I used to be someone else. I had a different past, different thoughts and feelings. I wasn't me. Do you understand why you lose your freedom the moment you kill the Slivon inside you? As long as you keep it under control, it must live within you. That's how you preserve your character. Still, she began. Once again, she clenched her hand into a fist. Was everything pointless? You don't have the right to interfere in Kilan's life. If he wants to fight and is aware of the danger, you have to let him out of the cage. He trusts you.
He looked away. Had she struck another sore spot?
Let's keep going, Jiyan.
A life in captivity isn't a life in the long run, she replied. Her fist shot up, stopping just centimeters from his face. He flinched slightly.
If he truly matters to you, you'll do everything to make him happy.
Her eyebrows drew together.
You're no better than the Slivons if you act selfishly.
Now seemingly unimpressed, he grabbed her fist and pushed it aside. Yes, I know. The rest of the way, they walked side by side, tense and silent. What had been her goal? To make him feel guilty? That wasn't her style. What she wished for was that he would realize things on his own and approach Kilan himself to confess. Would he do it? And why did she even care? The house came into view, and her face brightened. Not much longer now, and she could recover from the day. Pushing the memories aside, she felt her exhaustion more and more. Her mood shifted. She noticed the front door standing open. Her feet began to tingle. Instantly, she and Kiyan looked at each other. Did they share the same thought? Had Kilan been taken? Chapter 10. Taking on a role. Reaching the house, Jiyan grabbed Kiyan by the wrist without thinking and pulled him back with all her strength. His pupils were wildly dilated, his skin icy to the touch. The color had drained from his face. She realized she had to keep a cool head, because he clearly wasn't.
A trap? Ever heard of that?
With ease, he tore himself free of her grip. Her words bounced right off him. Without even turning around once, he went through the door. His breathing sped up. Even from a distance, she could hear him panting. Jiyan looked around in every direction. No one was in sight. The windows showed neither cracks nor broken glass. Even the door itself was undamaged. There was nothing suspicious around the house. Had Kilan opened the door in the hope that Kiyan and she would come home, ready to greet them with a smile? In the end, she decided to step inside. One step became 2, then 6, and eventually she stopped counting. While Kiyan walked confidently down the hallway, she crept along the wall, alert. She couldn't be careful enough. How suspicious would she and Kiyan look if they were discovered inside the house? Would excuses still have any effect? Paper scraps were scattered across the hallway floor. Broken shards of plates lay on the kitchen threshold. Cutlery was strewn everywhere, crossing over one another. Kiyan had stopped in front of the living room. Like a statue, he didn't move an inch, keeping his eyes fixed on the door. When she reached him, he looked at her. His first reaction. He swallowed. His hand moved to the door. He gave it a push, and it opened without resistance. Jiyan peeked inside. At first glance, she didn't recognize Kilan because he was almost completely wrapped up. He had a blanket around himself. Only his face was visible. His chin rested on his drawn-up knees, with just the tips of his feet sticking out.
Kilan?
Kiyan called out. His voice cracked. His posture slackened, and he let out a long breath.
Oh, hey,
Kilan replied. His voice still sounded nasal. His nose and cheeks were reddened, while the rest of his face was pale. Now Jiyan and Kiyan stepped inside properly. Jiyan made a sweeping gesture. What hit this place? A bomb? What? Why is it such a mess in here? Kiyan translated. What happened? Kilan coughed. I thought you weren't ever coming back. I got a little nervous. A little? Jiyan muttered. She knelt down and picked up an empty picture frame. The glass had shattered perfectly in the middle. It took her a moment to tear her gaze away from it. A lot happened. I actually wanted to cook something tasty for you. The TV had toppled over, but she couldn't find any further damage. The blinds were drawn. The darkness in the room bothered her, so she turned on the light. In small, hesitant steps, Kiyan approached Kilan. He dropped to his knees in front of him and pulled him into a tight embrace. I'm sorry. It's all good. Kilan laughed and patted Kiyan's back. Why are you apologizing? The hug lasted an eternity. Kiyan squeezed his eyes shut and clenched his teeth, but Kilan didn't notice any of it. He kept repeating his apology. The CRs live outside the city. Kiyan confessed. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. While Jiyan mixed together the leftover ingredients and prepared a dish she herself wouldn't eat, Kilan ate calmly and listened to their experiences. She left out a few details. They had more or less cleaned up the chaos Kilan had caused in the house. It's good that you met Zayina, Kilan finally said, and she was grateful that he spoke at all. I think it's great how quickly you found out where the CRs are. Jiyan was washing the dishes, her back turned to them. She couldn't see the expression on Kiyan's face, but she could imagine it. He had revealed part of the truth, and in that moment, her heart had lifted. But it had taken too much effort for him to admit that he'd known for much longer. Could he live with that guilt? I'm sorry that you both were put in danger because of me. She paused mid-wash. Doing her best to make her voice sound light, she suppressed the memories as a lump formed in her throat. It's not that bad. I was just surprised at how the child tried to protect his father, even though he was human. Is that really so surprising? She heard Kilan say. She turned around briefly. He smiled and placed his fork on the empty plate. Thanks, it was delicious. What do you mean by that? She asked immediately. Her pulse quickened. What he had said was important. She could feel it. Why isn't it surprising? A Slivon helped a human. They're enemies. He should have been on his own species' side. Kilan rested his chin on his hand and narrowed his eyes. You see a puppy being bullied by children. The little dog has no way to defend itself. You know something wrong is happening to it. Would you save it? Of course. Every human would step in, even though they gain nothing from it. He grew thoughtful, his gaze resting on his empty plate. When someone innocent is at a disadvantage, they deserve help. The Slivon boy was a child. Slivons are only as intelligent as their host. No more. A child's brain is wired differently from an adult's, and besides... Yes! She shouted, suddenly slamming her hands onto the table. Cutlery clattered against the plate. Kilan and Kiyan flinched, and she herself was startled by her reaction. Something inside her had started moving. Yes, that's somehow true. Just because I'm human doesn't mean I have to look away when a Slivon suffers unnecessarily. For example, right? The corners of Kilan's mouth lifted. That's still bothering you? He laughed. But yes, that's exactly it. I like the way you think, she admitted. Why had she never come to such a thought herself? What had he experienced to form such an opinion? It overwhelmed her, her legs trembling. Why had his words shaken her so much? She didn't understand herself. Something scratched at the edge of her mind. Without hesitation, Kilan grabbed Jiyan's hands. Did you hear that, Kian? He turned to him. Jiyan likes the way I think. You could give me compliments like that too, you know? Kian sighed. Okay. Jiyan. Kilan squeezed her hands tighter and leaned closer with his face. Jiyan. She leaned her upper body back. What is it? Thank you. He grinned from ear to ear. Please keep being so direct with me. She returned the handhold. You know what? I know how I can be useful to you. I'll take over the cooking. And you don't have to look so disgusted, Kian. My food doesn't look very appetizing, but it tastes in its own way. I once took a cooking class. Kilan looked over at Kian. Whose laundry? I didn't say anything. Kian defended himself. You're the only one who can go shopping after all. It makes sense for you to handle it. She nodded, satisfied, and let go of Kilan. She hadn't realized how warm he was, because the moment she released him, she felt cold. Suddenly, the sound of the gunshot echoed in her head. She touched her forehead. The sound grew shriller until it turned into a piercing whistle. What's wrong? Kilan touched her elbow, pushing the thought aside a little. She shook her head. It would take time to process what had happened. I wonder why we woke up. What's different about us? Don't you wonder about that too? We suspect, Kian began, that a strong emotion triggers awakening. Before I woke up, I was intensely afraid of Jiyan. My fear grew every day. She lowered her gaze. And me? Would it be possible to wake all humans once they knew the method? Was it the same for everyone? Were emotions truly the key, or merely a symptom of the awakening process? Your sadness, he speculated. The death of your brother shook you deeply enough until it reached a maximum. Yes, she forced out. The lump in her throat thickened, and at the same time her mouth went dry. Occasionally, her tongue stuck to the roof of her mouth. She cleared her throat and looked at Kilan. Had her chance come to learn more? Trying to make her question sound as casual as possible, she briefly caught Kian's piercing glance. And what about you? Silently, Kilan shifted back and forth on his chair. In the end, he put on a wide grin. Hatred.